Hello, this is Random Access Sunday night. We're here on Random Thoughts with Random Access and Dutch. How you doing, Dutch? Say, yeah.
I'm doing pretty good.
Glad to hear it. Be perfect. See, there's no audio in at the moment. It's wonderful. Yeah, it's a Sunday night. It's January 26th, 27th, 28th, 25th?
25th.
25th? Oh, well, I don't know why I'm getting so far ahead of myself. 2015.
Holy cow.
Oh, I am from the future. I've come back to warn you. It's hard. It's hard to get the thoughts. Once I get a thought in my head, I get on a thought train. It's hard to change the tracks. I do that with people's names. Look how long it take me to get serenely speaking, straight. I do that with people's names. If I learn your name wrong the first time I meet you, I'll probably never get your name right the entire time I know you. It's like my mind gets stuck on something, and it's hard to just change what you already know. It is difficult. We talk about that actually a lot on the show. Perception, perspective. Your perspective is so important. That's that core belief stuff. That's that intensive training. It's just a lifetime experience. Gut feelings, common sense. All that boils down to this perspective that sort of sits there, and you just take it for granted. It's your privilege. It's your privilege lens. It's the thing that makes you think, well, that's just the way the world is. Well, we don't know the way the world is. The world is something outside of us. It's the universe doing whatever it's doing. The best we can hope to do is not distort it too badly. But what do we do with people when they are obviously wrong about the situation? Some people just look at the situation and they're completely wrong, and they're like next to impossible to deal with. And there was actually an article I found about that was talking about that, and it was how to debunk false beliefs without having it backfire. So you can find this on our page, but this is exactly that sort of problem. And I don't want to read it or spoil it for anybody. I think you need to kind of read and think this about yourself. But you had to have been in that situation before, where you're trying to just get something through somebody's head, and they're just not seeing it. They just. And how do you do that? How can you do that? What you're trying to do, you're literally trying to change somebody's perspective, and there's very little in this world that's more difficult than to get somebody to change their perspective. They have to be open-minded. They have to be willing to change their perspective. But the problem with false beliefs, just like any other beliefs, is we believe them. So they're like anchors. They're like little screws that screw our perspective in place. People don't want to stop believing. Don't stop believing. People want to believe what they believe because it sort of reinforces your world, your worldview, and it makes you more comfortable with the way you view the world. If when you have a crisis of faith, when your world is getting rocked, and the things that you used to believe are no longer true. Suddenly somebody, a longtime friend, suddenly betrays you. That's a belief shattered, or it could be, I don't know, you catch somebody cheating on you. That's and you find out Santa Claus is not real. There's these you find out there's these beliefs that you held to be true, are suddenly no longer true. That just, man, that is something. And so when you're trying to convince somebody, you don't use a megaphone and yell in their ear, because they're just going to shut down. People have Noel Coward, Oscar Wilde. I don't know why I confused Noel Coward and Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde has this quote. It's a great quote. I think it applies here. Is, if you want to tell somebody the truth, make them laugh, kill you. And it's true, because people don't want to be told that what they believe is not. Just all of us, take whatever you are sure is true, and then imagine if somebody was trying to convince you that it was not true, whatever it happened to be. You would resist it with every fiber of your being. You would resist all the evidence. You would resist all the arguments. So you can't just, pick up a megaphone and yell somebody's ear. So this is an interesting article, and it goes into that. But I think the thing when you're reading it is to remember that, you wouldn't want somebody to change what you believe, just unwarranted. It's brainwashing. It's almost what it is, comes down to, right? You change what somebody believes. I mean, in a way, you're brainwashing them. They might have been brainwashed to believe that, but you're changing the way they perceive the universe. That's a big thing. So I don't know. It's going to get going.
This is going to a conversation that you and I had not that long ago. There's a couple things when it comes to, it depends on the situation with the person, whether or not that I'm trying to convince them or what I'm trying to think or do. Sometimes I do not go out of my way in order to try to change somebody, because it's likely not going to happen. And if I know that I'm right, sometimes I don't go out of my way to prove that. And I think that that's important to sometimes, is that you don't have to embarrass somebody. You don't have to prove somebody wrong to make yourself right. Not to say that I don't like to be proven right, because I do. I like the validation of my work. But at the same time, sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Another thing is that we had this conversation. As you know, I'm speaking on behalf of the patient, from the patient's point of view. And I'm trying to convince a number of people within a group status, to work on some things, some awareness for mental health. And, it's like a number of the decisions that they want to do seems to be like very combative to what's already in place, which is the medical model. They want to, go ahead and they want to say, oh, well, we need to do the exact opposite of what it is that's already there. And, it's like, and then they wonder why they're not taken seriously, and it's because you got this. You got two fists that are banging into each other. Eventually that starts to hurt. Where I try to make it fun. It's like where I'm trying to say, look, yes, I have a message and everything like that, but it doesn't have to be totally combative against yours. Let's have fun with it. Why don't you get to know me first, and then you'll be able to understand what it is that I'm saying. So, it's like, I think, in that sense, it's like, let's have a softball game, and then let's talk about this. It's like, let's have some common ground before we start talking about some serious issues. And so that's, when it comes to perceptions and everything like that, it's very important, but at the same time, there's certain ways of going about it.
Yeah, there was, when you were talking about that, it was I'm so impatient. I push these little buttons and the microphones go in and out, and I just gotta wait. Okay, but we talk about that feeling that we have when we're right and we're talking to somebody else. There's two things that come to mind. One is is to remind myself that it's kind of an old cliche, but there's a lot of truth to it, I think. When the student is ready, the master will appear. And in other words, when that person is ready to change their mind and ready to see things, then they're going to respond to whoever it is that's talking to them at the moment. It kind of ties back to where I talk about the universe is always speaking, and I just have to kind of pick those moments where I'm listening and actually have my perspective open and radar open or whatever, tuned into the universe at just the right time, and then suddenly I hear it. And it's lucky for me, and this is where I kind of think it's a good thing, is the universe is always talking, it's always telling the truth, so it's always available to me when I'm ready. And I think it's the same when you're dealing with other people. You could be trying to convince them to your blue in the face. If they're not ready to hear the truth, whatever the truth is, they're not going to hear it. So when the student is ready, the master will appear. And it's not only the person's the master. It's just that they're going to be ready to hear the truth. And related to that, and so while you have holding that in one hand, the other hand is, this is a little expression, it's like, you can either be right or you can be happy. And so sometimes you're like, but I'm right. So maybe it's just a reminder, say, hey, maybe I need to make a choice here. I can be right or I can be happy. I'm going to choose to be happy because, being right is you know, you could be right later. I mean, that's just kind of what it comes down to. Especially when you are right, then you can be the one that kind of, is a little more graceful in the situation, because you have the power of being right on your side. You don't have to prove your point. So that's good. Yeah. So where does this come up? There's this. Here's one where this comes up, and I see this story. This just kind of came out. There's this physicist who I've mentioned before, and he's a fun guy. I think he's a fun guy. His name is Lawrence Krauss. I don't know. I want to say he goes he's a professor at New Mexico or Arizona, but who knows? Somewhere out west, maybe California, because that's where they all are. But he's this one that has this theory about nothing. It's this A Universe from Nothing is a book that he had that came out recently, and he has an hour-long video on YouTube called Life, the Universe, and Nothing. And he's a physicist. He's a theoretical physicist, and he makes an argument from a physics point of view of how the universe is really, there's nothing there. And then kind of from there, what do you mean by nothing? Well, in the physics sense, nothing would be equal amounts of positive and negative, equal amounts of left spin and right spin. A neutral universe is what it comes down to. And in an energy sense, a neutral universe. And that's something that I've kind of talked a little bit about. And part of it is, in no small part, coming from him a little bit, some of that same language. But, I try to think of it in terms of more metaphysical, more like philosophical, and not so much the science, because I think the science is very interesting. But I want that science to be able to apply more widely, because I believe the universe is simple. I believe it follows very simple rules, but from those simple rules we get unbelievable complex diversity. That I have no doubt. But I'll just simplify things. Nothing could be more simple than nothing. So there's this beautiful. Make me one with the universe. Well, if everything in the universe is one, if there's a sense of oneness, that's like the same thing as nothing. I mean, that's almost like the dropping the keystone in the arch. Once you drop it in, then it all becomes a self-supporting structure. So it's just as if it wasn't there. So there's that. To me, there's this beautiful sense of nothingness in contemplating the idea of nothing. There's this. I don't know. It's just very comforting. But Lawrence Krauss he's big on that. That's a life, universe of nothing, or a universe from nothing, and that the universe is nothing. And basically, it means that it's neutral. And from an energy point of view, it's neutral. So you have like gravitational energy potential versus actually the gravitational potential energy and the kinetic energy balance out. And so all those kind of things. But all the energies balance out in the universe to nothing. So that's one of his theories. But he has this article he wrote in the New York Times just recently, an op-ed. Well, one of the things about Lawrence Krauss is he's also he's not as outspoken, say, as some of these other scientists. If you follow outspoken scientists who fall into the category where they call new atheists, someone like Richard Dawkins, probably the most outspoken, but Sennett. They're kind of outspoken atheists. And in fact, that Light, Universe of Nothing speech that Lawrence Krauss gave, that's like an hour, there's actually two versions of that on the internet. One is in the university, and it's got a certain. There's another where he's giving the same speech at a small, basic atheist conference, and it's got a little bit more, maybe a little bit more. I don't know, is it aggressive? A little bit more. But yeah, it's got a little more of an edge to it. So he it is what it is. He wrote this essay here because this is something that he feels strongly about, and I would agree with this his thesis here, and it's related to this fact that people get a worldview, and then anything you tell them or anything they read about just supports that worldview. And this headline is, no, astrobiology has not made the case for God. And what this is, there's people out here who speak about creationism and intelligence using recent scientific cosmological facts of like exoplanets and chemical makeups on other planets and on asteroids to try and bolster their case that life is such a miracle on Earth that that's more of a case for God. The more we look at, the more it proves that God had to create life because there was no other way for life to arise. And one of the reasons it bothers him, which it also does me, and it was tied to something that we were talking about yesterday too, is people misread the science. They misread the studies. The studies say actually the exact opposite. When you read these studies, the scientists basically are coming out saying, it seems like there's nothing that we can't do in the universe without life arising. Sure, we're not finding the life yet, but we're finding all the precursors for life. It's very difficult to actually find life. I mean, planets are far, far away. So we can find certain chemical makeup. So we can find certain, there's certain things that we're finding, and everywhere we look, it seems like everything that you need to happen for life to arise seems to be happening everywhere in the universe. So it's not that it's more rare or harder or that much more of a miracle that it happened on Earth, but it's almost like it's pretty much no other choice. In fact, there's this energy argument that that the universe wants to dissipate energy as efficiently as possible. It doesn't want energy to accumulate in any one area too much. So things like to cool off as efficiently as possible is what that kind of means. And nothing dissipates energy better than living organisms. I mean, we are little heat machines. And of course, we take a lot of energy in from the sun, but we dissipate energy very efficiently. And so it's sort of the most efficient way for, that's an argument. I mean, it's not, and I don't know, it may not be 100% true either, that that's the most efficient way, or it may not be true that that's exactly what nature kind of goes for. But that's actually kind of a case in science that, hey, maybe that's what's happening here, is that life is sort of inevitable. And what it is, what we think of as life, is nothing more than a hyper efficient energy dispersion, diffusion. What was the word? I already forgot it. I said the word 5 times, right? So we got to disperse, diffuse, energy. I don't know, whatever. Distribute. I don't know. I said the word 5 times. So whatever that word I was saying before, and I can't think of it now. I don't know why where my head went, but energy. Oh, I have to stop everything while I think about this now for a minute. Dispel, disperse, energy diffusion, energy. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know. Now I've lost it. But anyway, the idea. So energy doesn't accumulate too much in one place. You want it to actually flow smoothly or efficiently, so it doesn't get caught up and bundled up in places. And that life is maybe that. What we think of as life really is the most efficient way of doing that. So now it gives also us a chance to think of life might take on a much different look in other parts of the universe. In this part of the universe, we are the most, life on Earth is the most efficient way to sort of disperse that energy, dispel the energy, diffuse the energy. Wow, that's why I can't believe my mind is just erased. But maybe on other parts of the universe, whatever mechanism is most efficient will play the part of life, and so that maybe what we think of as life is actually much more than what we've thought of up till now. That maybe our way we think about life has been limited by our own experience with it, but now we're getting to a point where we can ask different questions. Which is always where big leap forwards come from, is when you start asking new questions that have never been asked before. You don't get stuck in your old way of thinking. When you're constantly asking the same old questions over and over and over and over again, you can end up stuck. And sometimes it's a matter of asking a different question, which gives you a different way of looking at things. So this is interesting. So it's an interesting little thing. Again, this stuff's all available on our webpage, the Random Thoughts with Random Access page. Also on Twitter, it has the hashtag RTWRE, Random Thoughts with Random Access. And there's even, like I said, we've said before, on Twitter, special Twitter exclusive content on Twitter. So if you follow us at Random Access, you can get that Twitter exclusive content. And the word I was thinking about, I don't know. Dispersion, dispel, diffuse, disseminate. Now you went to. I don't know. I know I said the word. I was saying it, and now I've just completely lost the word. It's I might be saying it now too, but it's completely unfamiliar to me what word I'm saying.
It's just not ringing the same. That's all.
Yeah. So, but anyway, maybe that's what life is. Yeah, that life's a little bit different than which again would be a more simple explanation of what life is, because life's a very complicated. What is life? But maybe what life is, it's some level of this energy diffusion. The efficiency, the efficiency to diffuse energy. Maybe at some level, that's what becomes life. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of a simple definition. And then it doesn't, so I don't know, just kind of throw that out there. Something I'm thinking about. But the point was that people get a view of the world, and then they also use that to read their science studies. So people misread science, which is what I talked about yesterday. About a lot of times, and then Lawrence Krauss has this interesting little article. Last week at State of the Union, we had the State of the Union address last week here in the U.S., and one of the union, there was a live interview on Google, similar to what we're doing tonight. A live Google Hangout event, or a live Google event. With YouTube, and some YouTubers interviewed the president, and so this is this article here. Brother of John Green, John and Hank Green, very famous internet YouTube, do the crash course history, the crash course videos. They were also known as the vlog, like a blog, but video blog, Vlog Brothers, where they spent a year making videos back and forth to each other, and that was their only communication for a year. And they did it over on YouTube, and so everybody could tune in and see the two brothers communicating with each other, and that was their only communication for the year. So that's where they kind of really got started. They've been on the air doing this kind of stuff for many, many years now. But they got to interview the president, and the news made a big deal about it. Fox, CNN, MSNBC, and in a way they were mocking these people. There was three of them that interviewed the president. There was Hank. He's 34. He was a biochemist by profession, is his education, but now. Mm-hmm. And then there was two other people. There was Bethany Mota, who, and I have to admit, but that's a Latina, and she's, whatever, she's got her fans. And then a comedian, Glozell Green, but she's 52, and she has her fans on YouTube. They have different demographics, so it was a widely varied. Did the same thing on YouTube, and then a lot of the news media. And so Hank Green was responding to this. One, Google's been doing this since the 6 year Google has done this, so it wasn't the first time Google's done this. Google actually was able to get the interviewers in the same room with the president. When you watch this, and it's available on YouTube, they're actually at the White House doing this, interviewing him, so that was the kind of the real coup this year. That's where it was really different than in the past. But even a couple of years ago, Hank and his brother John were both able to ask questions of the president at one of these, so it's not like they've had no sort of contact with him. But he talks in here about how media is changing, and media is stuck in this old way of doing things. And they're not used to the idea that people sitting in their house can be producing content for mass consumption that's of the same quality as the news media. To be honest, news coverage from the legacy media is awful. It is worse than what you get when you seek out people who do it amateur-wise on the internet. I mean, of course, there's a lot of people out there who aren't very good because they're just doing whatever they're doing. But the people on TV are awful these days. They're not news people. I talked about it yesterday about the science reporting. It's not a science expert doing science reporting. They have the guy who they do the lost dogs and whatever, and then they cover the science reporting. How's that possible? And all the way through, it's just the people don't have the same expertise they used to have in the past. Your sports people, sports writers, people these days probably were in the past, where they read the sports. Maybe now they just kind of write about it. We're losing the expertise in the areas.
Well, you don't. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's almost almost an unnecessary job now with computers these days. Everything gets entered into the computer, and then you can draw it whatever stat. But a big shift was with Moneyball. I mean, it shows, the even with all the stats, people were just looking at them wrong. Some took somebody to come along and say, hey, we got all this information. Let's at least use it in a way that makes sense. But that started changing the way that we actually think about the game and think about the stats. But you have to constantly be thinking about the medium and the media. But how is it being covered? What is it that the people want? What are they responding to? What is our delivery medium here? And what does it take to get people to connect with our content? And it's not just all about profit first. Maybe in the old model it was very much that way. And part of that I can understand because the distribution costs are so huge. Yeah. It didn't matter how good or bad your product was. There was this huge cost to get it to people. And then, that was like a fixed cost delivery of to get it. You got to build broadcast stations. You got to get TVs and people. So whatever the delivery medium was, it was very, very expensive. That represented a huge fixed cost of the product. Your money kind of out here a little bit. Well, now there's no cost for delivering a product. It's really essentially zero. We deliver the same product, really, as anybody else in the world. Right. We're instantly on YouTube. We do this thing tonight. As soon as you can watch it live while we're doing it, but as soon as we're done, it's available on YouTube, just like anything else is available on YouTube. It's instant. The purpose is it's free, and that means that my motive to make money doesn't have to include recouping all my costs for the distributing. Because there are no distributing costs. I only have to get compensated for my content creation, right, which is a very small cost. Because one, it's easier to create content people-wise. Technology really is a lot cheaper, and you can use a lot fewer people for producing things. Content creation is actually much more efficient than it was years ago. There's no distributing costs, and so I only have to get reimbursed on the content. And if I don't have to make $1 million. If I can just make a living wage, then I don't have to charge that much to get to distribute, to sell my product. A penny an episode, 10 cents an episode, $1 an episode. There are people who are making a lot of money, professional people making a lot of money on $1 an episode. And because of that, they can emphasize the quality of the content, because now they can put the money into the content. There's not stuff getting eaten up by distributing costs, and it breaks the back of the distributors, because in the past the distributing costs were so expensive. They controlled everything: the record label, the movie studio, the television network. They controlled everything because they're the ones that distributed the media. You want to create it? Fine. Who's going to show your movie? They're going to create it. Who's going to play your record? Who's going to show your TV show? Who's going to? They controlled everything. They're out of the picture now, and they don't like that. One, they don't like that at all, and then, of course they think of it as the end of the world. But it frees up so much. It allows everybody to be content creators, and it allows the good content creators to become recognized at a very low introductory cost. They don't have to come from a rich family. They don't have to have a rich father. They don't have to have a rich mother. They don't have to have that in with that company to get into the right place at the right time. They can actually rise up just by creating content. So it's just amazing. It's just changing the way we get content, and plus it's all on demand now, right? It's not. In fact, there's even a phrase for this: appointment TV. They talk about this here. Appointment TV. First time I saw that a couple of years ago, I was like, appointment TV. What is that? Oh, that means the show's on Monday nights at 10 o'clock. So if you're going to watch it, you got to make an appointment to watch it, versus on-demand TV, because I want to watch it right now. It doesn't matter what day of the week it is. It doesn't matter that it's quarter after the hour. I just boom, I start watching it. So everything is much more on-demand. It's not appointment, and that's harder for them to monitor, because they want to see how much, how many people are watching it, because they want to be able to charge for advertising, which was really important, because you got to make back all that cost on your distributing. So that means you want to make sure you know exactly how many people are watching your show, so you know exactly how much you can charge for advertising. Well, when you get rid of all this other stuff, the advertising piece now becomes very much smaller. And that's another thing they didn't realize, and they tried to avoid, is trying to stick as much advertising in this online on-demand content as they had on broadcast TV. And of course that doesn't work. You got to have almost none, because you don't need much. It's just, hey, it's on demand, it's instant. A little ad here, a little ad there periodically. We'll make enough money to cover all your costs. Everybody makes money. Everybody's happier. And it's changing the world. The world is changing, and that's what Hank Green's talking about here in this article. Holy shit! I interviewed the president. Available on our website, of course, or just tune in on a regular basis. Here, you'll hear about these kinds of things. Kinds of things I think about. What do I think about those things? Because that's just the kind of person I am. Because maybe I should share a little of my story. A couple of weeks ago on a Sunday night, we were going to sit here, and we did sit here, and I spent about an hour.
Not we were going to. We did.
Spent an hour talking about me and some of my background and how I got here. And then at the end of it, realized hadn't pressed the record button. So
you did it on purpose.
But if you go watch episode 2.0, it's about 20 minutes long. And it basically it's 20 minutes of me saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I did not press the record button. I did not press the record button. I can't believe I did not press the record button." But one of the things growing up, my dad worked for the government, and he was in the Air Force a little bit and we moved around a lot. Especially for the first 8 years I was alive, I went to multiple schools for every grade. Lived in a lot of different countries. I was born in England, lived in Germany, North Carolina, Indiana, California, back to Indiana, Iceland, Italy, Bermuda, Spain. I think I'm about 8 years old at this point. I was going to kindergarten multiple places, first grade multiple places, second grade, third grade. So for me, my perspective was getting shoved around a lot. I didn't get to go to one school with one set of friends in one town where we all grew up together, class to class to class to class to class to class. I was getting a pretty radical change every couple of months. A whole new set of friends in a whole new country, a whole new setting. Sometimes I was closer to school, sometimes I was farther away from school. It was a different kind of school. So it just really kind of gets it. I'm sure it definitely affected the way I think about I just a simple idea like home. I think for some people the idea of home. I see it on the news. There was a story recently with a woman. Something was happening. She's lived in her home for 47 years, and I don't know. They were tearing it down. So they're going to build a mall or whatever it was. But and of course she's fighting. And she said, "They're not moving me out of my home. I lived there 47 years." And on one level, I can really, I don't want to say I feel for her. I understand that sentiment only because I hear a lot of people talking about it. But it's and I guess I can kind of try to imagine it a little bit, but I don't feel that. I mean, myself, like if somebody says, "Hey, I know you live here a long time, but it'd be different." They said you got to go, and they're not going to compensate me. They're not going to give me a place to move to. If they're just going to put me on the street with no money and nothing else, I'd be concerned. But hey, if whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I am not defined by the four walls. I at least I tried not to be, which is hard to believe because I spent a year and a half in my apartment one time and never did not go outside. Mm-hmm. In fact, like the last person I saw before I did that is in the room with us today, Crystal. She wasn't exactly the last person, but I was coming back from a trip and I met Crystal and I stopped off to see her. And we met at the airport and I was changing planes. But after that trip, I went home and did not go outside for a year and a half. It wasn't Crystal's fault at all. It was certainly working up to it. I was working up to it, and so in a way, I was kind of defined by my four walls, and I definitely resisted being moved. I resisted, but it wasn't that it was an attachment to the place. It was, a lot of other craziness going on there. So, that's another thing I kind of feel about that. It says I don't get that same sort of attachment to a home. I bought myself a house once, about a 4-bedroom house, nice big 2-car garage, 2-story, and I had to get rid of it. well, whatever. It wasn't like the happiest thing necessarily. I don't know, happy, unhappy, but there was a lot going on there too that I was dealing with. Maybe that colored it a little bit. That worrying about the house was kind of the furthest thing on my mind at the time. I was more worried about my mental condition. I completely broke it down and ended up in the hospital, and ended up in a halfway house for several months, almost a year, and I just had to get rid of the house while I was living there. I just, it was just got to be too much to have this house that I couldn't go to. But there was just a lot of other things going on there. So, maybe that's part of it. I don't know. But it was but part of my upbringing is, through all that moving, not really getting that sense of that home is like a physical location. To me, a home very much is kind of when I close my eyes and get clear thoughts, and then I feel like I'm at home, and if I can think clearly, and I guess I don't know how to explain that. That's just was that a weird thing? But it definitely affects the way I think about a lot of things, because I guess I'm not even really sure how I'm trying to explain that or what that means, other than we all have different perspectives. It's very, very difficult for us to change our perspectives, and a lot of our perspectives are set. They're anchored very early in our lives, but it's not even so much very early, but in the early part of our lives, over many years. That's the other thing, is by the time you're 8 years old, you've been setting that perspective for 8 years. It's been building and building and building and getting locked in place, so that of course it's pretty well set. Your whole world, everything all moments of learning, everything about you happened with that developing perspective. So it gets really hard to jerk that perspective around, because it does kind of tug at everything that you know about the universe. It's that the guy being screamed at by the girl on the megaphone. He's got his reality. He doesn't want to hear what she has to say, because it rocks his world, and he's not ready for that. I don't think any of us are. But that's why it's careful, slow. But when you're ready, you'll hear it. And I probably should have done a better job of preparing like all these thoughts here at this part. I mean, I kind of knew I was going to talk about this, but I avoided thinking about it. Is that obvious? But addiction is another one where this comes up. I battled alcohol for a long time, and a lot of it was just not giving into it, and going to AA. I did that for a while, listening to the slogans, but never really internalizing it, never really making it part of who I am. And it was but I definitely, it's a lot more part of my life. It's the one day at a time, because that's how you get through it. It's not a matter of I can never drink the rest of my life. It's not a matter that I haven't had a drink in 1,409 days. It's I have not had a drink today because when I got up this morning, I made a commitment to, one, I'm not going to drink today. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to work my program. And my program is very simple. It's be where I'm supposed to be, at the time I'm supposed to be there, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So if I'm working my program, then I'm not going to have time to drink. And so I'm not going to be drinking. And then what does tomorrow hold? I don't know. I mean, I may have a really terrible night tonight. I may convince myself that I've got to have a drink. But I'm comfortable enough, at least where I am today, to say, okay, that's cool, Wayne, that's cool. Just do that tomorrow, because you already made a commitment for today. And we're doing this one day at a time, because I can only control one day. I can't control the future, and that's my higher power. That's those things that are outside my locus of control. Outside of my locus of control is the future, tomorrow. I can't control tomorrow. I can only control today. So I let my higher power hold on to tomorrow, and maybe I'll drink, maybe I won't. And tomorrow I'll decide in the morning whether I'm ready to commit to another day. And I just do it one day at a time. And it's, and it does add up after a while, but I don't carry the burden of my clean time. It's a counter that I just increment each day. Friday was 1,407, Saturday 1,408, today 1,409, and that's actually the counter for completing yesterday. So when I say my clean time is 1,409 days, what I mean, that's 1,409 that have been completed. and I'm working on today. So tomorrow, when I talk about how many are completed, even if I drink tomorrow, I'll still mention that I have 1,410 days because that's what I'll have by completing today. But I don't count it until after I complete it. So I count it after a sleep, as they say. After a sleep, when I wake up, I'll increment my counter, and then I'll decide if I want to. But it sounds like a simple thing to do, and that alone is enough to keep me from drinking. Is that true? That's not true at all. It's being able to work the program. And so it's not just a matter of being abstinent. That's an important part, but it's working the program, and working that program is really the thing that is like letting me live life. It's getting out there and doing things. There's also emotional stability, that's important, and then there's clarity of thought. So as long as I have clarity of thought and as long as I have emotional stability, then I can adjust my perspective to this one day at a time, and I can challenge this thing with keeping in mind that anything can happen. Again, I can't predict the future. I can't change any of that stuff. So, but it wasn't a short battle, and it wasn't a lot of damage along the way. So, hurt a lot of people, made a lot of people's lives miserable for a lot of years. Not just but for a long, long time, made a lot of people's lives really miserable. Mine own, of course, but certainly other people. And I have to own part of that. Now they get their own misery at this point, whatever it's coming from, whoever they are. I'm not taking anybody in particular, but it frees me from having to having ownership in other people's misery. Is I get to control my life, let them handle their own misery. I help them be a support as a friend, but I don't have to take ownership in contributing to their misery. I can just step up and be a support where needed. All right, that's again, I wasn't completely prepared how I wanted to talk about tonight, and I really didn't get into a lot of my story. I think I threw out enough hints, and I'll talk about it over time. I wanted to wrap up with our Twitter update. And this is always a scary thing.
You only have 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's about where I'm talked out at the moment. Okay. It's a Twitter update. And this is always a scary thing, but 960. Look at that.
Whoa.
So that's up.
Who did we pay?
These are all unpaid. I don't pay for followers. I never click any of those things. Get 100 followers now. No, this is all hard work, one follower at a time. And it's
when you think about it, you've been alienating some others, so it's possible you're just on the positive side.
Now, okay, I think it's my biggest number so far. At least the biggest number I remember ever having, 960. So that's a record. We'll go with that. It's what it was when we started doing this a couple of days ago. When I said, let's take a look at this, and it was 960. And then it got down as low as 955, and then now it's back up to 960. So there's things happening. But you can get here. You can see our hashtag RTWRE. That's Random Thoughts with Random Access. Add that to your tweets, and we'll see it. I can go ahead and we can look to see if any live tweets during the show. No, a couple of tweets come up here before the show, and then this one blue-eye character keeps tweeting. That's me, using the hashtag RTWRE. Random Thoughts with Random Access. But if you guys were to tweet us during the show, we'd see that if you add the hashtag. You can also tweet directly to us by sending it to @randomaccess. It's actually a lot easier for us to find it if you just use the hashtag rather than sending the tweet to us, because then it kind of gets lost in the timeline. And here we actually pull up that we have the hashtag actually pulls things right out for us. So it's a lot easier to get hold of us there. As far as contacting us, if you don't want to send us a tweet, you can reach us on the Facebook, which mentioned that. And that's the Random Thoughts with Random Access Facebook page, and you can post on there. You can read our posts. You can see the comments. But you can also, if you don't like sending tweets or contacting us on Facebook, or leaving YouTube comments, or even on Google, there's Google comments. If all that is too high tech with commenting, you can, guess what? You can send us, you can phone call us. Hey, somewhere around here. We have a phone number. I believe you might be able to send text messages to this phone number. Believe it or not, I have never tried that.
You should be able to.
Should be able to, but I'm not gonna guarantee that. But you can reach us. This is good. This number is good in the U.S. and Canada. This is 1-5-189-666-175. So that's 1-5-189-666-175. The Random Thoughts feedback line. It's open every weekend from 3 to 5. During the week from 3 to 4, and every night 11 to midnight after the show. We monitor this line closely. Your phone calls come into us. We answer them. We talk to you. If you call when the lines are not open, it will take a voicemail and record your message, and then we'll have to hear it at our leisure. So you can catch us by phone, by tweets, by Facebook post, by YouTube comment, or you can just watch us on YouTube. You can just listen to us on YouTube. Put your YouTube on and then go about doing what you're doing. You don't have to actually watch. You can just listen. I recommend the watching because we have such interesting graphics, and you get to look at Shane. This is like a best of all worlds here. On those happy notes, I'm going to wrap it up. Like I say, if our buddy Shane Dutch here from Serenely Speaking has any closing comments for people.
Well, I'm really intrigued for people to hear your story, and we're getting a little bit of it out there one day at a time type of thing. Sort of like your recovery. So, it works. I know a lot about it. I'm sure I don't know it all. And, for people to hear your story is got to be an eye-opener a little bit. Or, for how you handle things, your vast experience in different cultures and so forth. I think that's great. So, I'm really looking forward for people to hear that, because I think that they can grab hold of that and say, oh, now I know who Wayne is a little bit, and I think that's a thing. As far as this week, it's like, as you know, ever since we signed on with the JGF organization, the Joey Giggles family, been busy, been really busy, and that's why I'm actually dressed up now, is because we did a shoot for a voiceover for one of the projects that we're doing for there. Really excited about the show that we're going to have on Thursday night on Arisen Strength. It's about bullying, and it's something that I'm impassioned in, and I know that it's something that you're impassioned in. So I'm really excited to do that, and we got a lot of things going on. So just to have the listeners and the followers, keep checking in on the Random Thoughts Facebook page and Twitter page, as well as Arisen Strength and Serenely Speaking, because we got a lot of things going on, and we plan on doing more.
Great. Thanks a lot, Shane. And with that, it's Sunday night, January 25th, 2015. We're going to be signing out. Courage. See you tomorrow night.
Good night, folks.